Welcome back everyone to the Hearthstone Global Games. We were in a fantastic week and we just had an incredible series. It was 3-2 and it was right down to the wire, a 2-hour series in the end. This meta is starting to get towards the control meta that we presumed, isn't it, Lorinda?
Not a caster's meta, but a brilliant meta to be watching out for.
Absolutely. We have Romania versus Switzerland coming up next. I'm pretty excited for this matchup. I'm always excited for any match that RDU is involved in. I remember I jumped in his stream a little while ago and he was like, hey, I'll make you a mod if you...
Did you sub?
No, he was like, if you talk me up on HDG, I'll make you a mod. So he made me a mod, so I'm going to talk him up. Great player. Love it.
Really good player indeed. But one player does not a team make. We've found that with other teams with only one strong player in them. Luckily for RDU, Kevinator, Angelo, Shaggy in particular, and Charzul are all very solid. Interesting with Switzerland, looking at this lineup, a lot of players you might not know of there. But out of all these players on that screen, only one of them has made a top 8 this year in tour stops, and it's not a Romanian.
Wow. That is actually surprising.
It is Knights, who came top 8 at HCT Italy, of all places. And the whole team, in fact, have just got a better win percentage than the Romanian team across the board in tour stops, running at 57 versus 53 this year.
And this is the thing, we talk very much about like these big players that we know the names of that have been consistent at tour stops, etc. And we're like, oh, they might be able to carry the team or whatever. But the teams that we have on pretty much every global games team this year, they're all there for a reason. They're all there because of the HCT points that they have achieved. They're all fantastic Hearthstone players. They know exactly what they're doing. It's not like they're sitting at rank 7 or anything like that. They're all legend players that get there consistently every month. And that's why they are so incredible.
Yep, 93 tour stop wins amongst the Switzerland team. Again, none of them really stand out as names that we know very well, but very consistent, very steady performers. And 2 or 3 of them in particular, which we'll talk about as we go along, are significantly better than you might be led to believe have you not seen this team. And for me, that makes Switzerland favourites in this one, so I'll probably get demodded by RDU now.
Ooh, are Switzerland's favourites? Well, I guess the matchup and the bans is going to be very important in this one. And I did see RDU was sat in the pilot seat as well, so that's going to be interesting. Let's have a look at the bans then and see what was taken away by both teams. Of course, you do want to remove the biggest threats to the decks that you are bringing. Hunter and Rogue taken away, and then the picks follow. Lorinda.
Yeah, and the picks following through. Druid's going to be played on both sides, and it is Malygos Togwaggle on both sides.
Which is interesting. I mean, we had a conversation with Orange yesterday, and he was like, I just think Togwaggle is bad. He was running Azalina in his Malygos deck, but not the Togwaggle. But I know quite a few people who do just think adding the Togwaggle combo is just great in Malygos Druid, so I'm excited to see how that one plays out. There are also some very interesting decks for Priest. We do see a Topsy Priest being available, there is a Mechathune Priest also available, and on the side of Switzerland, they're even bringing an even Paladin. So I am extremely excited for this series because there's a few little different decks than that we've seen thus far this week in the Hearthstone Global Games. I don't want to say everything's been standard, as it were, but we were wondering if anyone would be a little bit more experimental, and I guess this is the series to show a little bit more of that.
Yeah, and I think that comes from the fact Romania have tended to be quite predictable, and I think it's testament to Romania they haven't taken this lightly, because normally it's fairly straightforward as we have a look which decks they've actually brought in here. But Switzerland have brought like Togwaggle, they've brought the Control Mage, they've brought even Paladin, they've got Mechathune Priest, or Mechathune, Quest Rogue, Shudderwock, and even Warlock. It's a very slow, grindy lineup that would probably have got the better of most Romanian lineups, but Romania themselves have switched it up, as we're going to find out in this first game.
You got it right the first time. It's Mechathune Priest as well.
Mechathune.
No, just Mechathune. We're gonna get you saying it right, because every time when we're talking about it, when we're arguing about it, you're like, it's Mechathune. I'm like, no, Neil, it's Mechathune.
I know, but I don't like to sort of make things
we can argue about
simple and good.
Yeah, I am short and I am simple, Neil, so deal with it.
And I'm good.
We have an amazing matchup first up, though. We are going to have Priest versus Priest, and it's going to be amazing because it's Topsy Priest versus Mechathune Priest. Quite the interesting one. Neil, I am very heavily on the side of Mechathune Priest in this matchup, but I feel like the way you're looking at me is you are on the side of Topsy Turvy Priest.
Yeah, I feel that the Mechathune Priest
you said it right.
Slightly more consistent, but the Topsy Priest is slightly quicker, and it's quicker and more often, or quicken more than 50% of the time, I feel. So it's going to be a race, basically, to do your thing first. We already saw how Topsy Priest works when Falcone beat someone else recently on the Monday show.
Yeah, who was that?
On his mobile, making like million boars. But the Mechathune Priest is... I'll get a smile and a nod from that one. A bit more complicated of a combo, if that's even possible.
Is it? Do you really think so?
It's harder to invent, I think.
Okay,
I think when you've seen it, it's more simple.
Really? Okay, so I would, just looking at both decks, I would say that the Topsy-Turvy Priest, whoever came up with that, which I think might have been Trump originally, I think is far more complex in what it actually does. I'm sure you viewers at home already know how these combos work. The Topsy Priest, of course, you are just generating boars, then using Vivid Nightmares, etc., just to make them make several boars that are wide because of Topsy, and you're using your Divine Spirits and all of that jazz. And you will see the fun unfold if Romania do manage to get that combo first. But on the other side, we've got the Mechathune Priest, which is all about getting right to the end of your deck, making sure you draw through everything. That is often helped by Hemet, because it destroys all the cards that are irrelevant for the combo. And then you have your 4 combo pieces, well, 5 if you include Mechathune, the Reckless Experimenter, the Coffin Crusher, and then 2 of the Ticking Abominations. And basically what happens is, if you play them in the right order, everything just blows itself up and you win the game.
That sounds good.
It does sound good, but it's whether they can get there before Romania find their combo. I mean, typically, Topsy-Turvy Priest can win on, what, turn 7 or turn 9?
Yeah, they're the 2 turns. You tend to aim for the turn 9 kill, especially these days when people have slowed it down. Just go check the build, but I'm pretty sure that they will be playing Giggling Inventor. It wasn't in the original build, but I know that it was something...
No, they're not playing any Giggling Inventors.
They're not good, because RDU was the first person to really try that, I believe. And I didn't like it. I found it cluttered up the hand a little bit too much.
Well, I feel like with what you're trying to beat with the Topsy Priest is you are just beating outright control decks. And the Giggling Inventor doesn't really serve that same purpose. You want to just be drawing through your deck. The Giggling Inventor is there to help you stall against aggro, but I mean, if you are just hoping that you're going to find one of these control matchups, why do you even put it in your deck? So I like this from Romania.
Yes, particularly in a tournament like this, I agree. But even normally, you're trying to buy yourself more time with it. But you've also got to play it, because if you go more than 3 cards, the combo becomes more difficult, because you draw 7 a lot of the time from the third Topsy, one of the Topsies. And having this thing you've got to throw onto the board, sometimes, even though it slows your opponents down, it means it takes you longer to get to your combo.
And I have always found it extremely intriguing in these kind of matchups. Like, are you keeping your combo pieces? Are you throwing them away and trying to find your draw cards instead? I mean, what's your preference? Do you like keeping some of those core combo pieces, or would you rather be searching for them with draw?
So in general, you do want the draw, but there are a lot of combo pieces out there. So some of them can be used as defensive measures, and it really depends what you are up against. But getting your draw, thinning your deck, going through everything quickly is absolutely crucial. If you are only playing one of something in the combo, then maybe you keep it. There's only one boar, for instance, but you've got so many ways of fetching it. That's how this deck is built when it's built this way, that you tend to throw them away and hope to find them later. Double test subject in here does help a little bit, though.
Yeah, just having that test subject that you can throw a power word shield on, it dies, you get that power word shield back. That's just more draw potential. It is going to get you closer to your combo. But something that's really important in this matchup, and you saw that Switzerland did just draw that Psychic Scream, that's something that both teams are going to be worried about. Psychic Screaming minions back into your deck is effectively going to be extremely bad for both of them. A, for the Topsy-Turvy Priest, because you are further away from your combo, but mainly for the Cthulhu Priest, because, well, you need to remove all the cards from your deck before you can actually play the combo.
So, for instance there, Romania hit into the opposing Blood Mage to do damage to their own minion, to try and get it nearer to dying, and then healed up the Blood Mage. Which means that it's less likely to die anytime soon, but it is going to be helpful with this Northshire Cleric now.
I mean, usually we are looking at that right-hand side of the screen. We're looking at how many cards each player has drawn, 20, 21. But realistically for Switzerland, they want to be finding that Hemet. They want to just destroy all these useless cards, because after you've played Hemet, it is just your combo pieces and Psychic Scream that are left for you to have. So that's what they'll desperately be searching for at the moment. Because the reality is, usually for the Mechathune Priest, if you get to turn 10, you have probably won.
And this is why my preference is for the Topsy Priest, because they both get their combo. The Topsy has to do it on turn 9, the Mechathune on turn 10, so it wins the draws, is how I see it. The drawn games go in the favour of Topsy. And also there is the added pressure. We have seen very good players, and I'm not going to name names because people know who it is, but I'm not going to name him every single time, mess up this combo, even though they've done it a million times in practice.
It is possible to mess up. Usually it's messed up when there are taunts in the way. That is probably not going to be the case from this Priest, as they can't actually offer any taunts to put in the way. They're not running anything like giggling, so it should be a fairly standard combo for Romania if they were to draw it. But that's the key, is actually drawing it. Certainly when I tested a lot of Topsy Priest, I was struggling to find all of my combo pieces early on. And you can see, look how much more heavily Switzerland have been able to draw through.
Sorry, cutting you off. They're going to overdraw Switzerland here. And there's a lot of combo pieces that you only have one piece of in the Mechathune. Make it stop.
You did it.
Deck.
Yeah, if you lose one of the combo pieces, it is extremely detrimental in this deck.
And we always say, well, imagine it's the bottom card. In these decks, you go all the way through to the end. So there was a chance there of just winning the game on the spot. And Switzerland, that's a wake-up call. They need that not to happen.
Oh. Well, that was close. But that's
as it happens, because they didn't get to burn a piece, they put them nearer the combo, which it was still correct to burn them, but they are now in a position where there's 2 cards nearer than they would have been, and no damage, no foul. But they also need to start emptying this hand, and all this hand does is draws cards. Not quite, but it's going to be a mess for them.
Yeah, it's about trying to navigate this hand as best as possible, so you don't put yourself in that position of overdrawing once again.
Yeah, don't play that one. Never go full Northshire.
Never indeed. I mean, I'm sure if you've played the puzzle lab at home, you would have had the experience to go full Northshire in the lethal puzzles. I had a lot of fun with that one.
Yeah, they have looked really good, to be fair. I've only taken on one of them because Falk challenged me.
And you did pretty well.
I did all right.
Yeah.
But other than that, I was busy playing ladder this morning. Just further enhancing my reputation as a really interesting kind of guy.
Oh, wow, they are just going to throw another Northshire Cleric on the board, but they're probably going to kill one off, I would imagine. Yeah. I think that is okay.
And they've emptied out enough of their hand that I don't think Spirit Lash and Heal is a threat. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It is not indeed, so...
And you know your opponent isn't running any Circle of Healing, so you're not going to be punished by that. But Hemet still not here yet, although he could just be drawn turn 6 and then suddenly things get a little bit more comfortable. On the other side, how many combo pieces do we see then for RDU and
Nowhere
Romania?
near enough. Like, you tend to count how many he's missing, and the answer is plenty now. A little bit closer there. I imagine that RDU has assigned one of his teammates to just make sure that like the combo alarm goes off. Because we have seen players like 1 card short go for it or whatever.
Circle of Healing's pretty nice. You can start drawing through some cards.
No Psychic Scream for Romania here either.
You've also got the option, as Switzerland, if you want, to Psychic Scream minions back into Romania's deck now. But putting another Radiant, maybe not the best thing to do.
Maybe, but yeah, give them some garbage,
sure,
get a card out your hand. They need to empty something out.
And they need to play these Screams, yeah. They've got to do it if they want to win.
It's just like a ticking time bomb on either side. It's Indonesia taking a 2-0 lead against Greece. Pretty big deal. They're both 1 and 2, so the losers will be eliminated. Another way how the health totals just don't matter a jot in this game.
The worry is, because Hemet hasn't been found in like the opening half of the deck, you do have some of these low-end minions that are a little bit annoying, like Loot Hoarder, for example, might just draw an extra amount of fatigue a little later on when you're just trying to empty out your hand.
I wonder.
But Switzerland, they're finding their combo pieces, but ideally you want to be picking those up after you've played Hemet. And then it's just going to become the stall tactic, trying to stay alive here before Romania, because they're going to be scared now these next couple of turns, because Romania are getting closer and closer to the chance for them to actually have lethal.
Yeah, so they are going to rush it a little bit. There are only 6 cards left, though, so they're getting right to the point where they can do this. But still pretty awkward. And both decks are tricky in this situation. I wonder just how quiet they've told their teammates to be for both sides.
Shadow Visions can pick up another Spirit Lash. Silence works out nicely as well. Try and stop some of this draw from your opponent. Double Shadow Visions get double Silence and then go for Spirit Lash if you wanted to.
The hand size is also getting a little bit of a nightmare here, but yeah, these silences are beautiful. Emptying out some more space and just slowing everything down. Really good interactions here for them.
But I mean, we're not far off from the combo on RDU's side.
Getting very close.
And a Psychic Scream is a way to delay Switzerland as well here.
This is just like backwards Hearthstone. Try and give your opponent cards, you know, heal them up, make sure that... I don't even know anymore.
You do want to try and Psychic Scream maybe after Hemet though. Because if you were to Psychic Scream then, Hemet played or drawn, it just gobbles up those cards.
Yeah, and you know they're down to 5 cards, as you can plainly see in clear view. So, wait until that goes, then fill it back up a little bit. Buy yourself some more time. Of course, they are going to draw you some more cards when they're drawn, so it's not going to be that much time bought, but they won't need that much time. It's interesting, I thought this was going to be completely uninteractive, but there's quite a lot of nuance available here. Nuance which I must admit I'm not 100% familiar with, as this is a fairly rare matchup to see.
Some intricate decisions, that's for sure. Got to be thinking about how you can stop your opponent from drawing cards. The double Silence from the Shadow Visions was fantastic from Switzerland.
And Switzerland are on this weird precipice as well, where they want to draw the cards, but they don't want to draw too many because their hand size has been a bit of a pest throughout this whole game. Again, already burning 2 cards. Luckily for them, they were just insignificant things. Otherwise, the game could have just ended on the spot there. It was a big mistake from them, I feel, to let that happen.
Minardi is what, 2 cards off having the combo? Divine Spirit he needs, and he also needs another Radiant or another Vivid.
Yep.
And then he's there.
And then he is there, and then it's all about can he do it. Of course he can do it, and he has got 3 people to help him out if things go wrong.
Shadow Visions helps. That can get you your Divine Spirit.
Yep.
Or your Vivid. Depends which one you want to take.
So you might just wait until you draw one of them, then go for the other, but tend to find that goes a bit slow if you do it that way. But in theory, you can hold on to it until you draw one of them.
I mean, in theory, Vivid is more... I mean, you can play it in more situations, because you could actually play it onto a Death Rattle minion if you were really desperate to try and draw some cards.
But on the other side, you might just draw a Radiant anyway, so there's more chance of picking up a natural one. So you would go for the Divine if you went for it, but do you have any other plays? Well, the trouble is, with this deck, when you do start accumulating combo pieces, you sort of don't have any cards that do anything.
And I like keeping the Shadow Visions back as well, for a little bit more of a choice. You can draw another card next turn. You've also got the possibility to just have lethal with Shadow Visions. We have seen that with Topsy Turvy Priest as well, where you know what spells are left in your deck and you can almost guarantee it. But Hemet finally picked up, although I don't even think you're killing off, you're destroying that many minions in your deck.
He's just been hunting in the jungle and he's pretty much come back empty-handed.
It's whether you're saving it as well. It's whether you're trying to bait out a Psychic Scream from your opponent. But there's nothing really you can play to try and do that.
Just quickly checking, make sure there's no sneaky inner fire or anything in the Priest. There shouldn't be, but it is a tournament deck. Sometimes people do sneaky things. There isn't.
The decision-making now for Switzerland is, are we Psychic Screaming another Radiant back in? Are we just playing Hemet to get rid of, what is it, 1?
Yeah, you don't want to give them a Radiant, I don't think.
I think they're getting rid of 2 cards, so there's a Ticking Abomination left. Just 1 Ticking Abomination of the combo, so yeah.
And then they're good to commence the process.
But now if Romania do Psychic Scream everything back in...
Second Shadow Visions, yep. So they can go for both parts.
They can, and they can set up for a potential lethal next turn. Oh, but they miss both.
So do you take the powered shield or do you take the second Topsy? Second Topsy can sometimes be good if your hand is a bit clunky, but it doesn't look like it will be clunky.
Or do you take the second Scream? Because your opponent is going to have to play those cards every turn, and you can just scream, and then you've given yourself some extra time.
Yeah, you make your opponent sick and not yourself.
I like it. However, if Hemet is drawn off the top, then Hemet does destroy the Radiant.
And if they did it again, I imagine they will...
That's not Hemet.
Shadow Word Death into the Scream, just to get rid of the Hemet so it can't do that naughty thing that it does.
And this is, I mean, not exactly what we were expecting from both sides. We were saying, well, turn 10, Mechathune Priest can win. Turn 8, we can see the turn 8 or 9, the Topsy Priest can win. But it's not been the case for either.
Yeah, I feel like RDU's had a really good grasp of how this match plays out.
Yeah, I mean, he's just stalling now, and both players are just scared. I mean, for Switzerland, it's more of the unknown. They don't know how many combo pieces are actually left for Romania. 14 cards still in their deck, so highly possible you could have half of the combo still in that. Whereas Romania, they know that if they manage to empty out the hand, they've just lost, so they can play around it more effectively.
Well, have it. Have that back. But I don't think I'll mind. So the pipe will fetch the second test subject, which is not much use.
No, not at all, especially as you don't have those powered shields, and I mean, are your minions realistically going to be dying anyway?
It does thin out your deck, so it does do something. It's not entirely useless, but there may be better things you can do with your mana. So you can't play it and Psychic Scream it, really. Just give your opponents more stuff. Second test subject as expected.
There are now 3 Radiant Elementals waiting in RDU's deck.
Right.
Get me out of here! Get me out of here!
Just getting himself a bit of hand space.
Looks like it. Either that or somebody hasn't done their job and told him they're short of a card.
I know they were able to pick up another Vivid there. So that's really important. Now they find Divine Spirit and they've just have the combo available next turn. So they just win?
Looks like it. Well, sorry, there is no just when it comes to Topsy Priest, but they have the win in their hand. As long as he doesn't, like, fat finger it, which happens quite often.
Yeah,
and it doesn't happen quite often to someone with RDU's skill, but to normal people. And we're 0 for 1 on ever seeing... We've never seen the combo actually all in hand, but we have seen people think it's all in hand.
Yes. Yes, we have.
So we haven't actually seen the combo go off in a tournament environment yet, unless you count you versus Falk, which I don't.
No, definitely not a tournament environment. And, well, this is now go time for Romania, as they do have all of the pieces of the puzzle, and providing we don't see one of the better players in Hearthstone mess this up, this is going to be game 1 to Romania.
Keep my eyes firmly on the screen to see if he does get it wrong, but I don't see why he would. He will have done this a lot of times. He streamed this a lot of times. And the stony face of the team, they've obviously been told, do not speak while I do this combo. And I don't blame him.
I mean, it can go badly if you do start saying, oh, no, wait, you need to do this, or watch out for that.
Yeah.
The dangers of this combo are you can burn your topsy-turvy, and therefore you can't actually do the combo on your board, so you need to be very aware of your hand size and what you're bringing back to your hand. But judging by where these arrows are pointing, RDU is making sure that he's not putting too much on the topsy.
And they've done it. We're seeing it from Switzerland's side, so from where they're sat, it's like, I wonder if we're going to get lucky here, but they've already had the high fives in the Romanian camp, and... eventually, we will see a boar go to face for 32 points. And possibly more, depending how much he decided to showboat.
And it looks like he's just gone the very simple route of 2 16-1 boars. And this was what I was saying. When you are faced with nothing else on the board, the combo feels relatively simple. Romania win the battle of the strange priests, as it were. As Lorinda is feeling smug in saying told you, but that wasn't either deck performing at their best, really, in terms of draw potential. The second Psychic Scream was really important, I feel, for Romania, able to just delay for that one extra turn. But it was kind of odd throwing back Radiant Elementals into your opponent's hand, but they were kind of forced. They had to.
Yeah, I felt that when we actually saw it play out against each other, the interaction was that the Topsy Priest had a little tiny bit of sway on slowing the opponent down, whereas really the Mechathune Priest had no way of slowing down the Topsy Priest, not in any great detail. So it felt like it played out okay for the Topsy Priest. I haven't seen the matchup played out like that before. It just felt like the Psychic Screams were more useful after the Hemet than anything that could be done from the other side.
Well, let's take a look at what the next matchup is going to be on your screens as well. We have a Warrior available for Romania and Rogue available for Switzerland, which we can talk about in a minute. But I'm still interested in this Priest matchup. I just think that, as you were saying, on Romania's side, they could play around the potential win condition for Switzerland. It's a lot more comfortable for them because they know how they lose. Whereas on the side of Switzerland, all they can do is try and delay by shuffling cards back in and hoping they don't draw those combo pieces, but they still can draw those combo pieces.
And it did look awkward for them to not overdraw too.
Yeah,
I mean, I know they did overdraw. I can't work out if that could have been avoided. I assume it could.
I mean, they were offered so much draw. You saw how quickly they got to those last 5 or 6 cards, and you've got to imagine if Hemet was picked up earlier on, like a turn 6 Hemet, then that probably goes in favour of the Mechathune Priest, because they would have just won on turn 10.
But burning 2 cards is a huge deal. If you're going to go that quickly and try and find that Hemet, you are running that risk of overdrawing, and it's a very real risk when your combo is like 5 cards deep.
But it is a shame for Switzerland and a shame for me because I did think Mechathune Priest had that one, but I will still sit in the Mechathune Priest camp very firmly, just so we can argue some more, really. Next up, though, is going to be Odd Warrior versus Quest Rogue. I don't think we're going to have too much arguments here, Neil, because obviously it's favoured for Odd Warrior.
Obviously. Yep, right, next game. Yeah, Quest Rogue, the most polarising deck pretty much ever in all of Hearthstone. Really preys on this sort of deck, like the Odd Warrior.
Yeah, anything that is just playing slow and gaining armor and trying to outlast is not really going to work that well against a rogue. However, you can see Azalina is there available. It can change things. You never really know what Azalina can do.
Yeah, it's interesting to see how Romania approach it. You usually approach it by sticking as much on the board as you can and then realising all your minions are 1/2s. Omega Assembly is interesting. Darius is actually quite aggressive. Bits and pieces here for them available and try and get something going. And it's all about how they feel the pace of this is. You know, is Darius too slow? Or is it the fact it's their only big minion really relevant?
Yeah, this is the thing. They can try and, like, tempo out a few minions, and actually, that's not half bad, to try and just beat down the Quest Rogue before they're able to complete their quest, even though nowadays you can complete it extremely fast, even though it is 5 minions instead of 4 like it was before.
And an interesting point you brought up yesterday with the Novice Engineer completion. It used to be the case that it was just too slow, but metas were, even the slower decks were quicker back then, for the large part, not obviously exclusively. But now you do have a little bit of time. This particular game, you've got as much time as you want because you're just about to get slapped for 1.
I also think the card draw is more important than it was. Before, when everything turned into 5/5s, now things are 4/4s. Your boards are more vulnerable to board clears. It is just factually easier to remove 4/4s than 5/5s.
Well, we saw that yesterday with the spreading plagues. I mean,
Exactly.
1/5s are much harder to go through than they were with your old 5/5 minions.
So having that just extra ammo in your arsenal of your hand and just being able to constantly beat down your opponent with these 4/4s and then getting Sonya and getting Rush on your Scale Hide, for example, can just be incredible. But you do need to make sure you actually have that hand size available.
So turn 4 is going to be the interesting one. That's when Romania have to actually start doing something with their coin and their 5 drops. Interesting to see exactly how they approach it, but they are just going to be putting down as much as possible, as quickly as possible. Darius will always have something to hit. Well, not always, but very often.
I do like how Switzerland didn't want to commit to the Novice Engineer last turn as well. The dagger was good enough. It can compete with this board. They could have gone Novice Engineer into Shadow Step, but at least this turn you're allowed to draw another card, or another 2 cards in theory, and then you can get a better idea of how you're actually going to complete your quest. Because if you are committing a Shadow Step to a Novice Engineer, then it is very possible that you're going to be trying to complete here. But this is also another option, protecting that Novice Engineer. If it isn't killed, then you are presented with yet another option of being able to use it as a bounce back.
Stonehill Defender, that'll get it done. I'm going to be like this all game, aren't I? Insufferable. So damage Stegatron is still a
Just like every
5/6.
game.
Sorry?
You're insufferable every game. It's not really just this game.
Oh, thanks, Dan.
You are more than welcome. Sorry, carry on.
So damage Stegatron actually has an attack value worth having.
Oh, absolutely.
Depending how they are going to try and do this. I mean, can they just run the rogue out of minions? Is that another option?
I mean,
Just kill everything.
the board clears like Reckless Flurry certainly are available. If Switzerland do overcommit, then there is a potential that they do just throw too much into the wind of Romania.
I mean, they do end up with like Valera Zola combo. For as long as they don't mess that up, they don't run out of anything. And with double Zola, I don't think even I could mess that up.
Double Zola is tempting to get some quest completion, and yeah, I like this. Bounce back this Novice Engineer now. Probably wait until next turn when you can play it alongside Zola, and you have your quest completion minion in your hand.
And you have the other Zola for Valera for making sure you don't run out of stuff, because that is the one way this could just have a terrible, terrible accident.
I mean, we've got to respect some of the like powerhouse minions and cards available for the Odd Warrior. Dr. Boom, of course, is a huge influence to this one. Ziliax can make a big difference later on if you can put him on the board, but it's Darius Crowley as well. Like, it's a 6/6 that has to be dealt with at some point.
Quite like Azalina-ing 2 Zolas. Sounds entertaining.
But are you okay with throwing away everything you have in your hand currently? I guess you play your hatchling right
I have
now.
a warrior hand.
Yeah, but a warrior hand isn't
No,
that bad.
at the moment, no, but you've got several turns to get into position. Now they know there's a Zola in hand, because that came from a Mimic Pod, and normally that wouldn't really help them much, but with Azalina in hand, it does help them a bit. And RDU's chirpy little face has just perked up a little bit when he saw that.
This Darius is going to get some work done.
Yeah.
He's going to be a big old boy.
No Vanish in hand, that's the card that is basically the only card that Quest Rogue has to deal with opposing stuff, and of course then they just plop all their own stuff back down and everything just goes insane. How do you feel about this deck? Do you feel it's too powerful, or do you think it's actually okay?
Quest Rogue?
Yeah, in the current meta.
I think for the day where people worked out that it was good again, it was very powerful because people weren't really expecting to play against it. The meta wasn't thinking it would actually be around, and then suddenly it just punishes all these slow control decks. I think once you know it's in the meta, you can play around it.
I'm excited to see it in these lineups because it means that next week you might see a lot more aggro.
Exactly. It's one of these stabilizing decks, right? We need it around so that we can actually try and get some aggro into the meta.
And we can all gang up and have the universal feeling of hating the same deck.
Well, we've done that enough times throughout the history of Hearthstone.
Yeah, I suppose that happens. And by we, I mean you guys, because we love every deck here.
Nope. Definitely not true. I could try and stick with you for that one, but I do not love every deck. But Switzerland can complete this this quest right here, right now. They have a prep also to make their minions into 4/4s.
Seems like a good card. This Giggling Inventor went absolutely silly last night. I know they didn't end up getting it done in the end, but Giggling Inventor in this deck is a bit silly. No wonder he's giggling.
Yeah, when you can start bouncing back Gigglings and just having constant 4/4 Annoyatrons, it is pretty filthy.
We should keep our wits about us, though, because Darius, like you say, the work he's been doing is going to become pretty impressive soon. And at the moment, Switzerland don't have any healing available to them.
And you gotta remember, I mean, you brought up Azalina. Azalina's gonna be giving 4/4s. Look at this hand that they can steal Romania. Some Giggling Inventors, some Youthful Brewmasters, Zola and Valera. That's gotta be tempting. I mean, obviously you don't know what's in their hand, but you know there's definitely a Zola. And you know there's going to be 4/4s.
When do you do it? How much of this do you want to dump first?
And that's the beauty of the latest patch update, right? Because it didn't it didn't used to be that way. Whereas now the minions, they keep their buffs.
Trying to work out if they can just get enough through to face at the same time.
Unity, precision.
But I do like how Romania did just kind of push face with Darius.
Yeah.
They said, well, we can send a lot of damage here. We can really try and influence this matchup into our favor.
I mean, the old school way to beat Rogue with a control deck when you did beat it was to just run them out of stuff. But because of the way that Zola and Valeera interact, that just doesn't really have a realistic possibility. So now the only way to beat them is to kill them.
Yeah, and I love that Romania are recognizing that a Vanish would be very punishing if they were to just trade there. Whereas they can try and force the trade from their opponent. There's still a 6/6 on the board.
Ironbeak Owl is somewhat relevant, at least, in terms of getting rid of one Gigalaruni, or Annoyatron as most people call it.
Yeah, but it still stays as a 4/4 body, which is always the annoying thing. I hate hexing quest rogues.
Yeah.
Just doesn't feel right. A 4/4 frog being on the board. It's not fair, really, is it?
Not really fair.
Seems a bit broken. Let's nerf it.
Let's just make the quest 10 mana.
Yeah.
Oh, let's just make the quest so it doesn't start in your opening hand.
That would be...
Yeah, make it the worst
Yeah,
deck in the history of Hearthstone.
That'd be
Great.
terrible.
Let's not do that.
Well, now this is where things start to get a little bit more tricky for Romania. And this isn't really a hand you want to be throwing away with Azalina either.
I think you wait until before turn 9 to give yourself the maximum chance of catching Valeera. At least then you can do all your stuff twice. And you might get some charge minions.
But if it is heavily in your game plan to be playing Azalina, then you get rid of, like, Elise. You want to make sure you play her before you play Azalina, because you want that pack. That pack is important.
But if you play Elise this turn,
then you could draw it.
Then, and also the 8 mana next turn isn't a good number for your 5s and 3s. But if you don't do something soon, you're going to die, because that's how 4/4s with charge and bounce and oh my goodness, all that stuff.
Yeah, it's not as scary as it used to be, Quest Rogue. Quest Rogue, if you kind of left them with a board, they just had the ability to punch you in the face with their 5/5s, bounce back everything, but the one less damage is actually so influential. You'd be surprised.
Would I?
Yeah.
Takes a lot to surprise me.
It does.
Yeah, late taxis, that sort of thing. They surprise me.
There's a Vanish. And Vanish is actually pretty good, because you can get your Giggling back, get some Annoytrons back. Right now, of course, this board isn't worth vanishing, but certainly a little bit later on, if things do get a little bit out of control.
How out of control can things actually get, though? With a second Giggling Inventor. I guess you're scared of Brawl.
And with Brewmasters that can bounce back those Giggling Inventors as well. But yeah, this is what I touched upon right at the start of the game. You need to be careful as Switzerland. You don't want to overcommit to the board here. You don't want to present an opportunity where a Brawl can actually swing the game in the favour of Romania.
Because that's a lot of damage. If your 6/9 or your 6/6 wins a Brawl, although they're not going to be there much longer. Hitting another 6 to face just sets up for chances to win the game.
But importantly for Switzerland is they haven't found like their Vicious Scalehide yet, which is a fantastic way of healing up. Because this 15 health is something they do need to be concerned about. And I guess a way of protecting it.
So is all this attack, this third to attack on the board.
Ugh, it's so horrible, and this is why Quest Rogue has found its place in the meta once again. Because it can do this.
And does a lot.
And especially against a deck like Odd Warrior, which typically struggles to really maintain any sort of board presence because it is very defensive.
I know how to deal with this board. Let's play Azalina. And then next turn we can Valeera and not die for a turn. And then...
And then you can play your own Giggling, then you can play your own Youthful Brewmaster, and then suddenly you're having a decent time as well.
Until you die.
Until you die, yeah.
Okay, Rector's Flurry.
Yeah, this is one of the board clears. But we just saw the Giggling Inventor bounce back. It comes again.
Oh.
And Switzerland can even be patient if they want to be. They could just play Valeera.
I think they don't need to do that, so they might not. But you're right, they could. Perhaps they will, because then they can...
You can double Giggling if you play Valeera this turn. You can double Giggling next turn.
Unless you want to make sure you're constantly bouncing the Giggling back for the whole game. I know yesterday Nevea was saying one mistake they made was killing off the lifesteal rather than the Giggling Inventor.
Yes.
So with that in mind, you would imagine Switzerland will just look after this Giggling Inventor until the very, very, very end. Because how do you ever lose if it's there all the time? Did you dream anything weird last night? Like hello, hello, hello all night?
No, that was just you whispering through my door, Neil.
Okay.
Choose soon.
I was just checking.
You often do haunt my dreams.
I haunt a lot of people, I'm sure. And
The thing is, this hand is getting worse for Romania.
yeah, and
They are going to be using Azalina to steal everything.
I mean, how's their plan working out here?
What plan, though? That's the thing. Like, I don't even know if Azalina is a real plan, because
No.
yes, okay, you're stealing some 4/4s when you put them on the board, but as soon as you bounce them
Yeah,
back,
they're
they're
not
not
anymore.
4/4s anymore. And of course, the Giggling Inventor that you play is not going to be summoning 2/4/4 Annoytrons.
Yeah, it's just not very good, to be fair. I mean, just Valera with the cards you draw is something worth having.
Yeah.
But how do you ever survive a million turns?
I mean, an Odd Warrior typically can survive a million turns, as it were,
It's kind of what it does,
but not when you are facing down a board full of 4/4s.
I mean, if you get your opponent down to only one minion, or Zola and Zola, basically, your hero power does cover that. The last 4/4 never kills you because you're getting 4 per turn.
I mean, is there a world, Neil, where Dr. Boom is found and you're able to find armor, damage, and mech minions to survive?
I mean, there is a world where that happens.
Okay, well, there we go then.
Get me a portal gun, I'll find it.
You cannot escape.
I don't think it would be safe giving you a portal gun.
I'll be alright.
I have a feeling you'd get lost.
Yeah, I wouldn't find my way back, but everybody would be happy that way.
We could be
Especially you lot.
like Rick and Morty, except I'm slightly more intelligent and you're slightly less intelligent than your character.
Okay. That sounds good. That sounds nice of you, thank you.
I was going to just criticize myself, but I thought it'd be more fun to criticize you.
I didn't realise that was a criticism, it's great.
Oh, okay.
RDU has like gone from bolt upright to slowly sliding off the corner of the sofa during the course of this game.
It's when you get to that, you slowly realise it's getting more and more difficult. The more bouncing, giggling venters. Valera offering the chance for a double giggling next turn as well, if they would like.
I'm sure they would. Yes, we got that weapon!
Yeah, that one extra armor.
Chalk that one up.
But by the looks of it, Romania is starting to empty out their hand now. Probably thinking towards Elise and Brawl soon, and then Azalina Soul Thief as a last-ditch attempt to survive this game.
Yeah, I mean, Elise could give you 5 Hearthstone cards.
She could.
And another
will.
Elise.
Yeah, well, I mean, this is the thing. They can't win a fatigue game realistically. They don't have enough removal.
I mean, how much stuff do they have to remove? Oh, there's Sonya, and yeah, okay, it's a lot of stuff.
I mean, unless Switzerland overcommit every single time, but the fact now they have Valera, they can get Zola, and they can get infinite Zolas, and they can just bounce back everything.
That is a lot of Zolas.
Constant board presence. Romania need a way to actually win this game rather than just delay the game.
And Elise can provide that. I'm just trying to work out how right now.
I mean, at least value cards is what they need. They need Dr. Boom to be able to make mechs that can actually be big enough to compete with 4/4s on the board. They need Azalina to give them their own 4/4s.
Yeah, they need a lot of things. And they need Zola not to be doing this to them right now. So there's Brawl number 2, but unfortunately for them, that's just one turn.
You have to Brawl here, probably followed by Elise, and then you go for a last-ditch attempt of Azalina, please, just hope there's something that can save me here.
Here she comes.
This jungle hides.
So yeah, it's just going to be what is in the pack, and it needs to be things we can't even envisage.
And that's if they even draw the pack.
I mean, they're going to draw the pack to give us some interest value, surely. Otherwise, they're just dead. Well, Azalina gives them a vanish. That buys them one more turn. I'm trying to work out how we get this 9 down to about -37 without dying to Zolas on the way. I must admit, I'm finding it a bit tricky.
It is tricky, and that's the exact same thought process that I imagine Romania are going to be going through in their heads as well. And maybe now they're recognizing that Azalina is a possibility, so they're getting rid of the Giggling Inventor, because even though the Giggling Inventor on the side of Romania wouldn't be as threatening, it's still a bit annoying.
It's also a bit annoying when you brawl and your opponent puts 28 attack down on the next turn. That always ticks me off slightly.
So they can have 3 mana remaining. What can they actually use here?
Like freeze things. By things, I mean one Annoyatron.
I mean, they do have the Sonya into Scalehide combo, which is not as good because, of course, it's still not going to be 4/4s. First one will be a 4/4 because it retains the stats.
I have got another Azalina.
Yeah, they do.
In obvious dating competition, I think I'm in front in this cast.
Which is very rare, Neil, I have to say.
It's usually a draw, because neither of us would ever do that.
Romania can just take down, or can just take this chunk of damage and still be alive next turn.
I mean, they can.
It would be amazing if...
Excuse me when I get all enthusiastic about taking this 24. 28 if you count the boar. So it would be amazing if what?
So is there a way that they can find lethal then? So 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, 24. You play the boar as 28, you vanish everything back, but you don't get the boar, so no.
And yeah, you don't get to... Oh, you can vanish first, then play the... No, that doesn't work, because you don't get the boar back. It's not quite how it works.
You can vanish, then play double boar.
I like we're talking like this matters.
Well, as far as I'm aware, they were one off.
That's how it felt. That is how it felt.
But then you're also opening yourself up to reverse lethal if you went.
Yeah, if you haven't, I mean, if you're missing by 1, you do have to take some sort of defensive measure, because there's probably some combination of nonsense that wins this game if you leave it all up. You know your opponent has a vanish.
So many choices.
I'm going to enjoy it if they have to vanish and watching all these Annoyatron explode, I must admit.
So you can vanish, and then you can play a Stone Touch Ball, which is a 4/4, I believe. You play Glacial Shard, which is also a 4/4, I believe. Great, 2 Stonehill defenders. Yep. Well, Romania, they give up. They don't want to be dancing around any longer to try and survive in that game. The Quest Rogue just too strong in any sort of matchup where a deck is trying to control the game against them. It's just really not going to work out. Not enough board clears, not enough stability against constant Annoyatrons, Neil.
And it did look like Switzerland have come prepared for what Romania have brought, which is interesting, again, because Romania tend not to bring much slower stuff, but they've brought quite a bit this week by their normal standards. They've still got their zoos and things flying around like they like to have, but going to be interesting to see if this strategy works out for Switzerland. It does look pretty close all the way down the list.
It is pretty close indeed, but we will find out what happens in the rest of the series after this. I wish you as viewers could witness how Lorinda dances every time that theme song comes on. You are really missing out. Maybe there'll be another rehearsal video that pops up.
Let's not do that.
We'll be able to see that one. Anyway, we're amidst Romania versus Switzerland currently. It is 1-1, and we're going to go to game number 3 shortly, which is going to be Death Rattle Hunter versus Mali Togwoggle Druid, Neil.
Which is a deck that I believe Tyler has been swearing by, saying is incredibly good. And I think he's been doing really well with it. But Hunter, Ace and Orange basically play the same deck, but they don't like the Togwaggle.
I'm on the side of I enjoy Togwoggle Druid just as it is, like even without the Malygos, but it makes sense. You can just kind of combine them both together. They both do very similar things, but it almost gives you more outs. It means you're less vulnerable to things like Demonic Project, for example, because you have more ways of trying to kill your opponent. So it makes for an interesting matchup. But going up against Death Rattle Hunter, typically, Death Rattle Hunter does pretty well into Malygos Druid anyway, because it just puts so much threats on the board from turns 3 to 5, and then suddenly the Malygos Druid is like, well, I'm still gaining mana, and I'm still trying to draw cards.
And this is the more sustained version of the Hunter as well, I believe, with the mechanical whelping. Indeed it is, as there is one on the screen, which just gives them that extra bit of if we miss early, we'll still get you late.
Yeah, a lot. Well, it's a lot of early game. I mean, Spirit Singer Umbra is in there. There's no King Crush, no Katharina. There is actually no beasts in here whatsoever.
Yeah, I think this might be the future of this deck, unfortunately.
Why is that unfortunate?
I don't mean it in a nasty way. I just think this is more straightforward. The beast thing was sort of interesting and fun, but a bit of a mess.
I mean, I like it as more of an aggressive build. Like, it tops out Mossy Horror and Mechanical Whelp. Like, it's 6 drops is as high as it gets. I do like that.
You know how as Cube Lock evolved, it sort of slowly but surely cut all the surplus?
Yes.
I feel this cuts the surplus. Like, just to have Mechanical Whelp, because it does the thing with the Umbras and all the other Death Rattle effects, whereas all the Katrina fetching a beast, and this beast, you draw King Crush and you don't know what to do with it because it costs 9 mana and you're not a druid, so you can't ever play it. I don't know. I just like the fact they've cut out all the gubbins.
And that is where the decks will get. They will lose their gubbins, as it were, and they will start to get more refined the further we get into this meta. But look at both of these opening hands, Lorinda. We have the option of just constant ramp from Switzerland, as well as the Twig and now Floop. But we also have Egg. We've got Terrascale Stalker also available.
Greece's run this year is at a sad end, unfortunately. Indonesia, who have been doing really well, they've already beaten Norway. They came incredibly close against the Czech Republic, the team who have ended Greece's participation in 2018. Bit of a sad one for Greece. They're a, I don't know, lively community? What's the word I'm looking for there?
Yeah, lively's fine.
Flamboyant.
Flamboyant is also fine.
But great to see Indonesia and APAC doing pretty well. 2-2, a chance to get to that magical 4-2 and get into that later stage.
Twig available for Switzerland if they would like to play it right now, or they can just go for coin into Nourish. You can play an Arcane Torrent, just in case you are scared that your opponent's going to start dumping minions on the board, which is going to happen very quickly indeed.
Knights, of course, the player I was referring to earlier who made top 8 at Italy, and presumably he's played a fair amount of Druid if he's been going really well in tour stops. Getting the Twig down, if you can spare the time, always seems to end well, even if you can't quite envisage why it's going to end well. It just gets you to that 10 mana turn. It pops just as you get there, so you can just have that 20 mana turn and just go completely nutso.
I think what's interesting with this Hunter deck is that, I mean, without the beast, so you don't have the Witchwood Grizzlies, for example, so it's more vulnerable to aggro decks, but because you have this early burst anyway, with the Egg and with the Stalker, you can still compete with the aggro just with sheer board presence.
And you can see in the builds from that Topsy Priest, this is what Romania have done. They're just like, okay, I don't think you're going to aggro us. They didn't bother playing any of the Giggling Inventor stuff in the Topsy Priest. They went for Shadow Word Death. And again, with this, they've just gone for the version that is more stable against control, in my opinion, at least. And I feel that they have won the battle of the bans and the metagame on this match.
I would have to agree with you. And it's going to be a difficult turn now for Knights in Switzerland, because you are slightly concerned with the amount of damage that is going to be incoming shortly. So you're tempted for Giggling, you want to also be ramping up. But you do know that Mossy Horrors are available for your opponent. Yes, okay, they can't use it next turn. So maybe you want to use this Giggling Inventor now, whilst it can't just be gobbled up.
They do sort of just break straight through it, though, over a couple of turns. But like you say, time is important as a Druid. One way to gain time is just to Nourish, and then Wild Growth, and just have 1,000,000 mana. And trust your deck to do the thing you paid it to do in the first place, which is draw Ultimate Infestation.
And now this is one of the elements where the Togwoggle variant probably isn't helping in this matchup. If you look at how many cards Romania have drawn through already, are you likely going to be fatiguing them at any point? Probably not, but maybe Azalina might be able to give you something, might be able to give you a little bit of an oomph. I don't know, Spider Bombs might be able to save you somewhere down the line. But it certainly, the more traditional Malygos variant probably does better in this particular matchup.
And he did go with the Giggling to save that time, and then next turn is just going to ramp up. Presumably, maybe they just abandon ramping altogether. That'd be interesting.
And you could just play another Giggling. That is one thing that Floop does offer, and it's why everyone has just been saying, well, Floop is one of the most versatile cards that's available for Druid at the moment, because you can play it with the Malygos combo, or you can play it like this, just as a really annoying minion.
Must be pretty comforting to be one of the best Druid cards.
Yeah.
It's not like being one of the best warrior cards where you could just be any old card. Like, it's not really a big accolade.
I
It's
mean,
the best warrior card.
We look at the history of Druid cards and how strong they've been. If you can say you're the #1 Druid card, I think you're going to be the life of the party.
Yeah, I
Neil.
think so. I think everyone will want your autograph, and everyone's like, hey, look, I'm best Druid card 2018.
Do people want people's autographs nowadays?
I don't think so.
Oh, maybe I'd take an autograph from like my favorite pro players. Don't autograph my book. Get off!
And so that happened. Going as wide as possible. No real worry about spreading plague. Obviously, they don't want it to happen, but you just get through it so rapidly that it's not a huge disaster if it does.
It's also why you might be tempted to play this second Giggling Inventor if you are Switzerland, because if you can bait out the only Mossy Horror that is available, then you draw Spreading Plague later, suddenly they can't deal with it as well.
It was a bit of a shame for Angelo Shaggy last turn. He'd like to have waited a turn to play the Spirit Singer Umbra. And if this was a normal weapon, they'd have just oozed it and waited to go Umbra into Loot Hoarder. But it's not a normal weapon, it is a twig.
Well,
and we all know that is a nuisance.
There is Spreading Plague. You also have the option with this twig to use it just for 10 mana at some point. Like, you don't have to save it for the Malygos combo necessarily. You might just be able to get a really big swing turn and compete with your opponent's board.
You swing with the twig, swing the game.
Because Switzerland are starting to catch up in terms of cards drawn. If they can stabilize here, run Romania out of stuff, then maybe they can just go down the line of we might be able to just Togwoggle Azalina them. Unlikely, but something they will definitely have in the back of their minds.
The thing that's really ropey here is like, hey, let's Azalina and get your hand. Oh, you've got 3 cards because you're looking after it very carefully.
Did you say ropey on purpose?
No.
Oh, okay. It made me laugh anyway.
Good. Yes, I did.
Yes.
But Romania are positioned now where they are going to be able to clear board after board for a significant future. Obviously, the Spreading Plague will put an end to those clears for 1 turn. But I feel like Switzerland, I know this is what Druid does. I know it doesn't die easily. It's a real pain trying to kill it off. But it really feels like they're not dealing with the board at all here.
And it just gets worse as well from that point.
Yeah.
You can't deal with the board currently, and then suddenly later you're staring down a bunch of 7/7s that are on the board that have just popped out of this mechanical whelp. Spirit Singer Umbra into Spider Bomb is something that's pretty intimidating as well.
And for this matchup, imagine if this was like a King Crush. It wouldn't really be that scary. But this is terrifying.
No silence effects available for the Druid. And they might even be tempted. The thing is, you want to use this Naturalize on a 7/7 potentially, but then using your Naturalizers isn't great when you're running Togwoggle in your deck because, well, then you're just drawing your opponent cards. You can still win the game, even just as normal Togwoggle Druid, using your Naturalizers.
Yeah, I'm pretty much treating it at this point as if this is just a Malygos deck.
Yep.
I feel that...
But the thing is, if it was just a Malygos deck, you wouldn't have things like Dream Petal Florist, you wouldn't have Azalina necessarily, unless you're Hunter Ace and Orange, and that might free up for potentially more card draw or more removal, like Wraths, for example. Sometimes we see them fitted into Malygos Druid, and then that can be used just to take out a 5/3 dinosaur, for example.
Where would you take it?
Asda.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Go down well?
Yeah, just go down the frozen aisle, get some frozen dinosaurs, show him who's boss. Be like, you're coming home with me, I'm going to eat your friends. And
Do
you're
they
gonna
sell
sit there and watch
frozen
it.
dinosaurs?
You've never had turkey dinosaurs, Neil. Who are you?
Who am I indeed?
You've never had turkey dinosaurs?
Not recently.
Oh, what a horrible childhood you had back in 1782.
So, how exactly does Switzerland proceed to start getting a grip on this board here without naturalising anything? I'm not sure they do. I don't think they know either.
This is the thing, and I think they're going down the option of we just need to break this twig next turn and try and just stabilise here. Maybe with Armor Gain, they could coin out Branching Paths.
About that.
Yeah, well.
Do you flanking strike your own 2/2 here?
I have been known to flanking strike a 2/2 here and there.
Obviously, you're oozing. I'll go for the egg and use the 2/2 for further production later on.
Yeah, I think the 2/2 is more influential as Gluttonous Ooze is going to put an end to any twig plans.
Actually, it's definitely correct, because you've still got 7 attack on the board anyway.
Yeah.
So, quite simple, really.
Oh, I just think the mechanical whelp is more influential
Yeah.
of a minion. That its death rattle is just better. So play deads become better when you draw one of those. Cube is better.
And they've been holding on to this Umbra Spider Bomb for a while too. Basically, I think that Switzerland are in trouble because they haven't really drawn any of the... And this is the thing, they haven't got all the stuff that you'd normally have.
So you can branching paths for plus attack just to try and stabilize this board. Deathstalker Rexar, of course, is actually fantastic at clearing plagues, usually when combined with what's already available. But it does mean some of these minions are going to die, but I think you're okay sacrificing them, as well as putting a 7/7 potentially if you want to.
I like 7/7s, they're good. Have we not got any facts today, by the way?
I do have facts. Do you want one now?
I'd like one now, yeah.
Which country would you like a fact on, Neil?
I think we'll go for Romania, as they're the ones in the ascendancy at the moment.
So, Romania actually have a gymnast who scored the first ever perfect 10 at the Olympics in 1976, Neil.
Wow.
Now, that is quite incredible.
What was their name?
Good question. However, it was in Montreal in 1976. Don't have her name, unfortunately. I can get that for you later if you want. But they thought that 4 digits weren't ever going to be needed in gymnastics. They thought that no one would ever score a perfect 10. And then when they only have 3 digits available, everyone was just confused. They didn't know what was happening.
So instead of coming at like 999, it came like 101. And
Yep.
it's like, oh, that's unfortunate.
And then it got announced.
It scored 2 points.
It got announced over the to the crowd, and they all cheered, and they all went mental.
Did she win?
I would imagine so. Scoring a perfect 10, yeah. There's a gold medal right there.
Sounds pretty good to me. And also sounding pretty good to me is the look of this board. They've saved this Umbra and Spider Bomb for emergencies for the longest time. Emergencies being, I don't know, a 4/12 dragon that might just kill you the next turn. That'd be an emergency.
But also seeking a gold medal would be Romania. I mean, I'm sure Romania would love to put that as being the first Global Games winners of Romania. They would love that, wouldn't they?
The first Romanian Global Games winners would be from Romania.
No, like just, yeah, well, yeah, of course.
Because the first actual Global Games winners weren't from Romania.
No, that's correct. But they'd be the first Romanian Global Games winners.
That'd be amazing.
Put that
Good
on,
for them.
Put that on your trophy cabinet.
Yeah. Or, if you're ball control, after you win your first tournament, buy a trophy cabinet and have it look lonely.
I swear he had a trophy cabinet before.
It was called a shelf.
Oh, it was just a bookshelf, okay. Right, you're starting to use these naturalize now to get rid of these big minions. But that does mean you are just inviting your opponent to have more potential in their hand. And this Builder Beast is going to be something that is going to be very concerning for the Druid.
Yeah, they need to not leave a big beast handy in their hand, because that could potentially give Azalina a way back into the game.
Yeah.
So we might not see them actually be as proactive with big beasts as you'd normally expect here.
And this is what is difficult about playing around a Malygos Togwoggle Druid, is you don't know what minion is now reduced. That could be a Malygos for all you know, and you're suddenly like, oh wait, can they just kill us in a couple of turns? It could be a Togwoggle, it could be Azalina. It could just be an Arcane Tyrant if you've messed things up.
Except they've played 2, right?
Maybe not, yeah, I think so. Maybe not the best of choices here. Maybe they were looking for another mechanical whelp. That would have been quite nice to find. So I think Mossy Horror, just as a offensive option against the second spreading plague, seems a wise idea.
They're in closer mode here. They're just going to get the board big enough to get the game over with. And it's getting pretty close. Well, there's the third Arcane Tyrant.
Hey, when that happens.
Yeah, me too.
When there's accidentally 3 of them in my deck.
Yeah, really causes some problems.
But there is still a world where Switzerland can play this Nourish, they can draw for cards, and they can get ahead of Romania in terms of fatigue.
And we live in the world where they can play Nourish and draw some cards. Definitely, because they have 10 mana.
Yes, indeed. What a world to be in. What a time to be alive, Neil.
But they've only got maybe 2 or 3 turns left. You say about a Druid a bit too often, but this is true.
I think the fact that the first ultimate infestation being found now has been quite detrimental to the Druid as well. And that's a reason why they are so behind in terms of what they've drawn.
Yep. But they are still just biding. I was going to say wasting time, biding their time.
Well, what they've done very well is they have dealt with the threats that Romania offered. Romania had such an early threat, and it was looking pretty much game over. But the Druid has stayed in it. There is still that potential of Togwoggle Azalina later. I mean, and there's still swipes. There's still Moonfires left. The Malygos is still going to do some damage too.
Yeah, Romania.
Malfurion's still sat in the bottom of the deck as well.
So plenty of stuff there for Knights.
And Malfurion is the key for Togwoggle Druid. For how you're actually going to win in Fatigue is just the fact that you can outlast your opponent because your armor gain is just vastly better than your opponent's.
It's a pretty terrifying looking beast. Again, didn't see what he took exactly there, but we're going to find out straight away anyway, thankfully. You don't want anything hanging around for long. It's just a 5/11, and it's everything.
So Malygos shows up. Still, all the spells that you would want with Malygos is available, but you have already played your Floop, you've already played your Twig, and you've already played the Dream Petal Florist. So there's no way to cheat the game to play Malygos alongside any swipes. You can only Malygos for 12 damage alongside the Moonfires.
Yeah, and this Umbra Spider Bomb scenario, along with Play Dead as well as it happens, that Romania have kept for a long time, will deal with the Malygos if you try to just leave it on the board.
And now you have a choice to make. You probably have to coin out something here. You don't want to be burning your Togwoggle.
That sounds painful.
Burning your Togwoggle. Yes. Yes, it does indeed. Well, Cube's finally showing up.
Yeah, we're just sitting there going, where's all the value gone from this deck? But here it all comes now, right at the bottom.
Yeah, Umbra into Cube, into Play Dead. So is fairly filthy. And then you have Mossy Horror as a backup if they do just Spreading Plague to try and defend themselves.
And finally, Romania building a board worthy of attacking with, and suddenly it's gone from meh into ooh.
Meh into ooh indeed.
And one way to deal with a Malygos is to hit it with 5/11s or to kill your opponent.
I think Malygos is just pretty much out of the equation at this point. Switzerland have very firmly gone down the plan, especially with Azalina receiving the Dream Petal Flourish treatment of, we are just turning ourselves into Togwoggle Druid. We are a hybrid deck, we have to go down this win condition. However, I think they're going to be pretty punished by, if their main source of defense here is Spreading Plague.
Yeah, and Romania have been holding onto that Mossy Horror for exactly this burst turn. They kept the Umbra back for the Cube. Also, the Spider Bomb was relevant at the time for a while. But now, Mossy Horror has been kept back for the turn where they burst, and facing down 27 damage. It's not quite lethal, but I think it will do.
I think I'd take it.
I don't think they get a choice, and they're going to have to take it. And they obviously realise this isn't good. Well, there's some more armour. There's Toggy. Toggle Woggle.
Malfurion in the bottom 3 cards. It's horrible. Do you know what's more horrible? Mossy Horror.
Yeah.
2 Mossy Horrors.
They've really called their tech cards well this week.
I'd have to agree. Looking through the deck list.
Joking aside, they've pretty much nailed it here. We saw the Shadow of Death in the Topsy Priest. We've seen double Mossy. I know Mossy's not a surprise tech card, but double Mossy's a little bit more unusual. Going straight with the mech version of this and taking out all the beasts.
Well, they've got one of the Mossies from Stitch Tracker, right?
Oh, okay. So they're only playing one, are they?
Yes.
I see.
So they were...
Makes more sense then.
So it was a good pick from them earlier anyway to make sure they had it in their hand.
Yeah.
But
it wasn't actually the amazing tech I was making it out to be.
I mean, just one is pretty nice.
I wonder what else they have got. Looking forward to seeing their own Togwoggle deck pretty soon as well.
Yeah, they're also running the Malygos Togwoggle variant as well.
In their Mage deck, they've got Archmage Antonidas. That's another anti-control card. You just lob it onto the board and then get the final burn in their burn mage. There's something else as well that I noticed. I can't find it now.
Well, you can keep searching while Switzerland keeps searching for a way to stay alive in this game. Unfortunately, it's looking pretty dire. Now you're having to look at cards like your swipe and your spellstones even to try and deal with these minions, and not even those can get you through.
It's Druid, it'll find a way, Dan. They always do.
Indeed. I mean, you've got Azalina, but we can see the hand from Romania. It's not particularly threatening.
Azalina, Spider Bomb fireworks tech, that'll show them.
You are very desperate when you are starting to search now. They are just going to use the free Moonfires, because if they play Azalina, of course, they're throwing away everything else in their hand. They're not going for the fatigue plan. Now they are just hoping they can outvalue their opponent with whatever in their hand. And it's not going to be pretty.
Yeah, they go for the hope RDU, and Romania made a bit of a mistake plan.
Time waits for no one.
And that could be the end of this particular Hearthstone game.
That looks like the end to me. Even Giggling Inventor is not going to be able to save them. Houndmaster Shaw plus Spider Bomb. I mean, they're trying their best. They're trying their best, I'll give them that.
How do you feel, what happens when like Druids go home having lost? They get shouted at by the Druid community. Like, how did you manage that?
I mean, Druid, this is just typically a bad matchup for them. The Death Rattle Hunter typically has done very well against Malygos Druid in their history. Even though they were able to stabilize, they were able to stop the incoming pressure from the early game of the Hunter. We said it was going to happen. At one point, there was just that turn, the Cube, the Play Dead, Umbra. It just got too much for the Druid to be able to handle.
Yeah, and Romania did a good job of keeping enough pressure on, because there wasn't much, whilst waiting for that incredible swing turn. They literally just made sure they had it under control with the Umbra, with the Spider Bomb, so that Malygos couldn't stick on the board. And then they knew that, hang on, best way to control Malygos later on is just to make a lot of big things. It turns out it was 5/11s. They didn't go for anything swanky. They just went for good cards.
And they found their important tech cards at the right times. I mean, Gluttonous Ooze did its job. They were able to find their Mossy Horror, which clearly was able to kind of take them over the line in that game. But next up then, let's have a look at the matchups to see what our next game is going to be. It's going to be Druid versus Mage, but this time it's Romania on the Druid. And they are also running a Togwoggle Malygos hybrid Druid. But they're going to be going up against a Control Mage from Switzerland, as far as I'm aware, Neil.
I believe so, just double checking. Yes, it is indeed. Got the Astromancer, which I heard Falcone mentioning earlier, which is one of the new additions to the deck. Surprisingly strong. I think it didn't look that great, but it turns out that it's okay. We found that Mage cards that make other minions before have turned out to be fairly mediocre. But this one comes down at the right part of the game and makes things big enough that your opponent tend to have to really panic for a turn or two to deal with the onslaught, because it comes with threat after threat after that.
Question for you, Lorinda.
Ooh.
What does Druid typically do well against in terms of decks?
Hearthstone.
Any Hearthstone decks?
Pretty much.
Anything that's slow, I would imagine, is going to struggle against a Druid that has several win conditions,
Yeah,
right?
I would agree too.
So, Control Mage, in my eyes, might struggle here. Of course, there are ways that they can win. I mean, if you can get Frostlich Jaina and you can put enough board pressure and maybe they haven't found some of their pieces, suddenly it can get a little bit scary.
I mean, you never go to a stats site and it says 0%, right? Even the bad ones are usually in the sort of 20-25 region.
I thought you were talking about bad websites there, rather than...
No.
Even the bad websites get it right sometimes.
Yeah, even Dan's stats has, like, numbers on it.
Wow, that's just mean. I know you're a stats guy, but I try very hard with my statistics as well, Neil. And I have facts. I'm a facts guy, all right?
So you owe us a fact about somebody else now, don't you?
So I can give you a fact on what? Switzerland?
I think so.
I've got a fun one for Switzerland, as we can see the mulligan now. In Switzerland, they have the Anti-PowerPoint Party, and they work on decreasing use of PowerPoint in professional presentations.
How many PowerPoint presentations do you do, Dan?
Personally, I did quite a few when I was 16, 17, and I was in school, but none professionally. I don't think I've ever used it in a work environment.
Like, we just turn around and start doing a PowerPoint in the middle of a car.
Yeah, I think I'm very firmly in the anti-PowerPoint party.
This is good, I agree.
With them. Yeah. All right, we found something good.
We found something we agree on.
Now Switzerland need to find something
It's
good.
only week 4.
Yeah, we've done all right.
Yeah, we're doing well. Now, talking of things, yeah, Switzerland need to go on how to go about this. However, Romania, at the moment, have rather a good hand. We say that a lot about Druid. You know why? Because Druid has a lot of good cards it can draw.
But most importantly, the Gluttonous Ooze has been kept from Switzerland, quite rightly too. The Twig of the World Tree is a very influential card, but the fact that Romania are playing the hybrid version does give them more options. They don't necessarily need the Twig. And I mean, even before this hybrid version existed, you still didn't need the Twig with Malygos Druid to still win.
Yeah, I feel a bit bad calling how well Romania have called this matchup when quite a few of the decks are the same thing.
Yes.
They've both gone different routes, but the Priest was the same idea, even though they use a different deck to do it with. Mechathune versus Topsy is basically the same thing in terms of what it achieves. They both bought Togwaggle. They've both bought a lot of slower decks in general.
Yeah, the
normal Shudderwock.
The main difference between them was their Warlocks. Romania brought a Zoolock, Switzerland brought an Even Lock. Romania brought an odd Paladin, Switzerland brought an even Paladin. Apparently, that is directly the opposite. But just a few more aggressive picks from Romania that were banned by Switzerland. And then they were able to just win with the control matchup. So
assuming
they've done
they
it well.
Yeah, we're going through the... We fancy Romania's chances, not only because of the matchup, but because they've got a decent starting hand.
And
it has no issue in it.
They've won a couple of games thus far, but they do still have it to do here in game number 4 to try and win 3-1.
Going to get the Twig going nice and early.
Which you have to. I mean, you can't, even though you saw your opponent keep a card, you still take the Twig, you get it going just in case they didn't have the Gluttonous Ooze, because that could be a Frostlich Jaina kept in the hand, for example.
Worst case, it just becomes the world's worst wild growth. Because you end up getting to 10 mana turn, and if they haven't killed it with their Ooze, you're like, tend to just do stuff. You know, Ultimate Infestation into play the things we drew is a pretty common play when you know your opponent has a weapon removal.
Now, we were saying last game, the struggle for Switzerland, they didn't find Malfurion, it was in their bottom few cards. Whereas on the side here, for Romania, they have it available on turn 7, which is going to be extremely important if this game is going to get far enough where fatigue is going to start to be a consideration, where Togwaggle is going to come into the equation.
Yeah, I'm going to be interested to see which of the win conditions gets there. Like, does the Malygos get there, or does it not need to? Do you just end up togging them to death?
I think against the Mage, because they have no way of really healing themselves up above 30, you can just use Malygos to kill them off this game. But if you use your Alexstrasza and they manage to heal up with the Arcane Artificer, for example, that is their main way of regaining health, then you are going to say, all right, well, I have the backup plan of Togwaggle plus Azalina if I should need it.
Seen this tech a little bit more from Mages recently, which is Keleseth. I mean, it makes sense when all your spells are quite expensive and you do have some minions in your deck and you've got nothing to do on 2 mana. Throwing in a Keleseth makes some sense. A little bit like Shudderwock. It's not the main thing, and obviously in Shudderwock you can multiple use it, so it's a lot better. But it just gives you a little bit more oomph, even though it's not really good. I think it's just like a throwaway card in a lot of ways.
Helps you pack a bit of a punch, and I guess in this matchup they're going to need it. They are going to need some minions on the board that can try and break through the armor gain that's available for the Druid.
It's not exactly a thriller though, is it? Looking through what it buffs, it just doesn't really do a lot. But I always wanted a 1/8 Doomsday. I think a Naught doesn't quite work like that, because that costs 2 as well. But, you know, I think I'd rather have a Doomsday than a Keleseth, personally. However, when this happens...
Yeah, I mean, we see in various decks how disgusting Keleseth into Saronite Chaingang is.
And 3 attack is a very key number, and 4 health is a very key number in current Hearthstone because of things like Spellstone.
Yeah, but there is a couple of poisonous Spooders on the board that you need to deal with first.
Oh, in this game, not so much, but I was just talking about maybe a Hunter Spellstone. So it says Spellstone because there's only one Spellstone I even care about, but you should care about the Druid one, it's rather good.
And Meteor onto 2 1/2s. It makes sense. You got to get rid of the poison. But now Romania, they need to start drawing. They can be drawing. The armor gain isn't as important right now.
That's Alina. Halfway there. It's not halfway there at all, but yeah.
Whoa, we're halfway there. Whoa, Azalina and a breath. No? Just me. All right. Sing it on my own. Get the lighters out.
It's fine. I'm not quite sure what Dan's up to right now, but it sounds like some modern kids ritual.
as production whisper in my ear.
Sinister
We
whisper.
know we see everything.
Yeah, and this is being recorded. So
But yeah, Azalina is there, but I don't think that Azalina is the win condition thus yet. Malygos and Floop is certainly what Romania want to be looking for. First, try and get that burst damage, try and find lethal through just sheer spell damage from swipes and Moonfires. And then you follow with the backup plan of Togwoggle and Azalina.
yeah, they've got weight of numbers on the board here, partially due to this Keleseth. Jaina in hand, Alex Straza in hand. We ought to keep a close eye on. You know, we're talking as if this is over from turn
Oh,
one.
no, I mean, it's
it
not.
really isn't.
It's not even that favoured for the Druid. I mean, like, the Control Mage typically is slow, which allows the Druid to be able to draw into its win condition. But, I mean, Keleseth has been able to boost up some of these minions. Alex Straza is definitely a threat as well.
Alana, I mean, Druids don't deal well with 5 attack minions in general. And there's going to be a lot of them at some point. Rabin, the same as me, staring at this turn as the most awkward turn of the game, I think. It will help a lot when Jaina's out there making those 3/6s.
Yeah, naturally you're looking at how am I removing these 1/5s, but I'd argue, do you need to? You've got Stonehill Defender plus Ben Creeper here, which is just putting an intimidating board, as it were.
I mean, you need to, but what you mean is you need to this turn, and I don't think you necessarily do. It's nice to remove them and start hitting at some point.
You can remove one of them. I mean, I don't think a Branching Paths is ever going to be realistically threatening to use on these minions.
Right.
Romania are going to be more well inclined to use Branching Paths to draw cards, or to gain armor.
Runs out on me.
And they're going to need UI at some point soon. Or at least their second Noish.
Yeah, this is the thing. I mean, what Togwoggle Druid typically does is it draws through its deck so fast in comparison to its opponent, but because it's a hybrid with the Malygos as well, there isn't as much draw because you have to fit in all of the pieces, and it hasn't kept... It's not far ahead. Look, it's 17 and 16.
Oh, the number of cards, yeah.
Yes.
Look at the health total thing. My eyesight's not that bad. And this is the other thing that happens. It's not just the card draw. Look at the synergy between the cards in Romania's hand right now. Or rather, the lack thereof. As a bundle of cards that you got at a discount rate somewhere. Have these 7 cards. Give us $1. You get them, you're like, what do I do with this?
Tell you what, for $1, I'd take a Giggling Inventor and a Arcane Tyrant. Pretty good cards.
Well, I just dump the rest.
And I think this turn, Giggling Inventor and Arcane Tyrant is awfully tempting, but you are scared of this board. You do need to be putting something in the way, you do need to be starting to remove it, and sacrificing one of these swipes is perfectly acceptable to do so.
It's acceptable to do so, but it's also a minor win here for Switzerland in the cut and thrust of this game.
Forcing out some of the removal, yeah.
And the damage. I mean, doing 30 in a turn without one of those swipes is trickier. Still okay, you can burn 1, but...
And that is the benefit of then having this hybrid version of Azalina and Togwoggle, is you can make those decisions to change your game plan. I think losing one swipe is fine, even in normal Malygos Druid, but even if you were to use both, you still have that backup.
And again, this hand for Romania, I'm not looking at the hand for Switzerland as much because they just got gas for ages. They can probably get that looked at, but they'll be fine. But the hand from Romania just has nothing doing right now, nothing they want to play at all.
Can change very quickly though with an Ultimate Infestation.
Yeah, Druid, that's traditionally always had, sort of their hands do look a bit iffy sometimes. They draw a card, it's not always in UI, and it just goes insane.
And Romania do have to be careful. They don't want to allow this board to go too wide of water elementals, otherwise they probably will just lose. It can be typically very difficult to deal with.
But one thing that becomes awkward for Switzerland, assuming that Romania basically trade off their board in the next turn or two, is they just can't generate the water elementals. They sort of feed off the opponent having stuff. It's not necessarily in the next turn or two, but as the board gets whittled away.
But this is looking good now. All 3 pieces of the Togwoggle combo are available. You are slightly ahead in terms of fatigue. All you really want now is probably a Naturalize. And then you do have the option of just swapping early. Rather than just drawing through your deck and waiting, You can swap early, gain your opponent's deck, which is typically full of a lot of removal, but you are gifting a Malygos then to your opponent, and that is something that is very scary.
Perfectly worked these trades. Oh,
Yeah, Geist does
I
make
forgot about that card.
Well, no, I mean, Geist can get rid of the naturalizers, which is a bit annoying, but it's not the end of the world. Because it is also reducing the hand size now for Romania, and actually opens up for them to go, all right, well, we've lost our naturalizer, so we can just go for Azalina and Togwoggle if we want to.
Mm-hmm.
Even though the ideal situation is you do it right at the end of the game when you have no cards left, and then suddenly you naturalize them twice, and they're drawing, well, they're burning, they're fatiguing.
Yep.
The amount of value available in the Mage deck is pretty big. Loads of removal.
I must decide.
And because of the nature of the opposing deck, every decision here is absolutely... I know, that's why they're roping so long. It's just absolutely punishing.
And they can save back that Geist as well, for the reason of, well, we're not going to gift them the opportunity to go for an early Togwoggle if they wanted to.
Yes, it's not happening anytime soon.
I mean, they know that Malygos hasn't been played yet, so typically you're not going to be playing your Togwoggle combo. But now, with Malygos available, it means you're not giving your opponent it.
41 health though, that's a big deal.
It is, but I like just playing Malygos here and saying, next turn we play the Dream Petal Florist. Malygos is not our win condition. It's now not in our deck. We are still ahead in terms of fatigue.
And the combo's ready to go.
Unless another Arcane Tyrant is drawn in the hand. Unless a Giggling Inventor comes into the hand. It can get pretty annoying. As rejoice for Dan Gaskin as he notices the United Kingdom are currently 2-0 up against Belarus. Both teams at 2-1 in the Swiss at the moment. The reason why I'm delighted is not because I'm from the United Kingdom, but in fact they were one of my caster picks. And that would put me firmly at the top of the leaderboard if they were to win today.
I'd be very happy if they won today. I beat Toast Monster on ladder earlier today.
Did you?
Yeah.
Was he practicing Belarus's decks?
I think he might have been.
Well,
explains a lot about the score.
Explains why it's 2-0.
But what I want to know is explain why I wasn't on the team.
You don't have enough
don't
HGT
answer
points.
that. Please, please don't answer that.
Sorry, your 4 HGT points did not qualify you for selection.
Correct. I mean, first you remembered how many I had, though.
I'm that kind of friend. But now it's time for the Skulking Geist. But look at the size of the deck for Romania. And an Ultimate Infestation drawn as well. Ooh. I think, you just take this opportunity. You can now Dream Petal Florist, you can then Ultimate Infestation next turn, you draw through your deck even more, and then you have the Togwoggle combo.
Meanwhile, Switzerland, with a deck that doesn't usually have that much aggression in it, has got a chance to develop a Lord of the Arena. I was getting all excitable then, and I realised that minions cost mana, and 10 doesn't work well with all these 6s.
So if Romania were to go for a relatively early Togwoggle, and I mean early because it's probably going to be like, what, 4 cards left in the deck? If not, they might even have the time to be patient. It depends how aggressive Switzerland get. Cards that they could give away might be like Floop, a Giggling Inventor, maybe another Ultimate Infestation, and they're fine with that.
Yeah, there's not that much. That's the weird thing with Druid. There's not that much of standalone superpower. Floop's pretty good, but your Ultimate Infestation is stupidly good. But all the bits and pieces, the ramp and stuff that are used earlier on, and a lot of the other stuff's gone, like Malygos. Yeah, you're giving very little away.
But Alexstrasza is extremely scary. That is putting a huge threat onto the board.
Yeah. And is going to be very hard to deal with, at least this turn.
Arcane Tyrant does synergize really well with the Ultimate Infestation. You take it, and you hope that you can survive to the point where you play Azalina, you play Togwoggle, you don't die that turn, and then suddenly you have all this stall available, like Blizzards, Flame Strikes, Dragon's Fury, they're all there.
Yeah, and we've gone from that bargain basement collection of cards not having any synergy to look at how all this lot just functions so well together now. Just a complete change of events. oddly enough, because that's what Ultimate Festation, that card does. Festation.
How do you like another Arcane Tyrant here from Floopy Boy?
I'm not sure. You haven't seen that much AoE yet from Switzerland. It could just all get blown out. It depends what they're going to do next turn.
I mean, next turn I'm thinking about Wild Growth into Togwoggle and Azalina, to be honest.
Sure. I mean, if you feel that you don't die from 2 punches from the Alexstrasza.
Yeah, maybe you don't even need to Wild Growth. Maybe you can just Hero Power.
Making space for...
Well, just trying to play around potential pings there. Reducing their minion
because
cost.
Flame Strike ping.
Yep, Flame Strike ping allows a water elemental to be made.
Such key numbers you have to work on. Playing against Mage really is hurtful sometimes when you're trying to work out exactly which pings are going to do you in.
It is, but Romania have been piloting this game so successfully. They knew that Togwoggle was a win condition. And I think against Control Mage in particular, because of the amount of stall and removal that's available that you take from their hand and their deck, even if they do have quite an intimidating board at first glance, if you can survive that first hit, you can just stall them out next turn and just kill them with the removal that they had themselves.
This Astromancer has proven me to be a liar, by the way. It's going to be rubbish in this game.
It's not great, but at the same time, it is putting minions on the board, which maybe Switzerland have to do. Naturally, you want to just Flame Strike here, but then you are opening up yourself to potential Azalina Togwoggle things.
So, trying to get themselves a water elemental that could make a lot of difference. Oof. One of the problems is Mage just doesn't have any burn at all, as far as I understand. Just double checking now before I say something I shouldn't, but no, it doesn't. So you can really push the limits when you're playing against Mage.
They get rid of branching paths as well, so that's nice because it means you're not giving your opponent a branching path. And importantly, Romania aren't giving any burst to Switzerland as well. It's just the one card, which, as far as I'm aware, might be something like a Giggling Inventor. Okay, Ferocious Howl, that's fine.
Yeah, the Rabin went into scowly face mode when he saw that for obvious reasons. And again, because the Mage had no burst, made that a lot more possible. Because they're just not scared of the immediate problem that is dying. Because even a Fireball would have killed them.
And something I want to bring up from a couple of turns ago, you know I said naturally you want to play a Flame Strike because there were 5 force on the board.
Yep.
Blizzard was good because you're able to ping and you're able to set up the potential for using your own hero power. But the fact that they didn't gift a Blizzard to their opponent is relatively important here. Because it means it's very difficult for Romania to stall against this Alexstrasza.
Yeah, it really is a good spot, actually.
Because if they had the Blizzard here, this game would feel incredibly comfortable.
But as it is...
But suddenly, it's not that comfortable.
Yeah, they've been emptying their good stuff out of their hand sneakily while we've been paying attention to Romania's hand.
Yeah, it's really nice from Switzerland. Because imagine if you had Blizzard here, you could just Blizzard, you can wait, they'd do something else, you play Dragon's Fury or Flame Strike, and you've probably cleared the board.
And how do they go about this?
So
yeah, we've been all in looking at Romania's hand, but actually...
I mean, Lord of the Arena, you can just plop in the way. But that can be removed by potentially a Dragon's Fury. Oh, no, it can't, sorry, there's no cards left. You can King's Ransom first, though. And then get your cards back, then play Dragon's Fury.
Yep.
That can remove the 6/5 and the 3/6 if you hit the right minion. And then you can push for 9 damage to face.
And pose the same problem again next turn.
Or alternatively, if you value one of your cards that is still in your deck, you could play King's Ransom and then Ferocious Howl, draw one of those cards, gain a little bit of armor.
I think they like the bit where they do 9 out of 10 damage.
I also like that.
Assuming you've played Geist, so there's no wands in there. Was there a Moonfire left?
Nope.
So guaranteed to hit then.
and they take the 1 fatigue, which means they just die. Romania played it so well with the Togwoggle. They were putting themselves in such a good position, but the Blizzard play from Switzerland is what I have to value the most out of that entire game.
Yeah, I was just concentrating on the wrong hand, but luckily for Switzerland, they were concentrating on their own hand.
Well, and I think Switzerland were concentrating on their opponent's hand as well. They saw what game plan they were going down, and they went for the Blizzard, which was able to just empty out all the good stuff, all of the stall mechanics that were available. And a 9 on Alex Straza. Turns out it's pretty good. Right, at 2-2, we are going to have a little break, but when we come back, we will get to the resolution of this series. Don't go anywhere. Romania and Switzerland are all tied up at 2-all, and they are trying to get to 3-1 in the Swiss. But only one of them can do it, Neil, as we edge our way into game number 5. Game number 5 is going to be an interesting one, isn't it?
Yeah, a Paladin mirror match, which doesn't sound like the most interesting things. Of course, whoever goes first just wins it, right?
Okay, yeah, all right, I'll agree with you. So what decks are they playing?
Oh, well, one of them is an odd Paladin. Thanks, Romania, for that. But Switzerland's Paladin is this even Paladin of things. We've got everything from, let's have a look through, Chillblade Champions, Tyrion, Valonir, Tarim, Spikeridge Steed, Avenging Wrath.
So like a more control version of even Paladin?
Yeah, it looks that way to me.
That is interesting. I mean, typically, even Paladin, like the more aggressive variant, can do pretty well against an odd Paladin. Like it's quite 50-50, but I imagine if you are trying to make a more control-heavy variant and suddenly you have more removal options, I would have to assume, as we both
there you go.
Stare at the deck list.
There's plenty of removal options there, alive and well for everybody to see. And of course, you've still got that upgraded hero power to some degree. It's not upgraded, it's just reduced cost. But at least that contests your opponent's one in some ways. You get one guy for 1 mana, and they get 2 guys for 2 mana. It seems like it balances out to some degree. And so Switzerland trying to take control of the game. It will just be a traditional aggro versus control match, effectively. It's just with a deck we're just not used to seeing.
And Romania won't be used to seeing it either. I mean, we saw in the previous series between China and Taiwan, I believe one of those teams was bringing a Paladin that was pretty out there as well, and the Paladin actually got banned. Just somewhat a respect ban of the unknown, I would have to imagine. Even Paladin, I mean, I guess you have some idea of how it's going to play out. Typically like the old, maybe mid-range Paladin with the removal, the equalities, the consecrations. As you said, it's just control versus aggro. You want to play around those potential removal options and hope that you can just hit them in the face to the point where they die before you do.
And the 1 mana hero power should allow Switzerland to keep some check on the situation. We have seen, when you try and compete with it with a 2 mana hero power, just things go out of control. But, nullifying a lot of what they're doing.
And the Acidic Swamp Ooze is going to be more influential than probably think at first glance. The fact it can take down a Vine Cleaver later on.
How do you fancy some hidden wisdom here?
I don't think I fancy it. How often do they play 3 cards in a turn?
Depends how many corridor creepers they have.
This is true. But out of all the options, I mean, Repentant.
How often do you want to hit them for 1 or reduce their 1/1 to a 1/1?
Yeah. Maybe it is Hidden Wisdom.
It also won't proc for a long time, so it will mess with their heads for the longest time possible too.
I think Repentance is the most normal secret to take, and you might be able to target something later on.
Yeah, if you can hit the corridor creeper somehow, then that might be good.
The light dims, but we fight.
But I would imagine that Switzerland are going to allow this board to build up until turn 4, then they'll use their Consecration.
To make sure that level ups and Fungalmancers can't happen.
Exactly.
Everybody's favourite.
That is the way that you do beat Odd Paladin. You stop them from being able to use their big influential cards. They will, of course, have their chance to do it on later turns when they have the potential for just hero power plus level up and getting 2 3/3s, but that's not as good.
Choosing to go with the Blood Knight in their deck, so no Owl or anything like that, makes a lot of sense, obviously, but not going to work out too well for them in this. They can hit their own Giggling Inventors, I guess, which they're playing a couple of.
Yeah, we saw that work out yesterday. Giggling Inventor and Blood Knight was able to provide lethal. It's just a pretty scary sight to see a big old Blood Knight just protected by some Annoyatrons.
It's going to be a scary sight if this Spikeridge Steed gets stuck on anything, though. That's why I was looking for owls and so on. Blood Knight's not going to do much against one of those.
Nope.
And that will buy them a lot of time. If they can get to turn 6 and stick that on a minion, I think with any sort of board, or any sort of control at all, they'll be in a great spot.
Well, I mean, they are going to get to turn 6 as well.
Reporting for duty.
The refill from Romania and from RDU is available after a consecration were to come down. I mean, Corridor Creeper is, of course, going to be very possible.
Going to be nicely dealt with, though. Going to be very well worked out on this Repentance.
Yeah.
Switzerland, again, I was saying at the start, they've got more sort of tournaments under their belt than the Romanians this year. Really good for it, been really accurate with a lot of their play.
And now Romania are going to be thinking, well, what is the secret? How do we play around this? And if they do drop this Corridor Creeper, it's just going to be gobbled up. And they might not drop it now, but next turn, it might be their only option.
Well, they've got the Fungal Mancer, and that looks to be what they're going with. They're keeping the Creeper back. They have successfully navigated this step, but if this Consecration does come down, I don't see why it wouldn't. They're going to be in a tough spot if they're going to develop any board at all.
I wonder.
Corpse Taker is more stall that's available as well. Avenging Wrath can deal with any more 1/1s that flood onto the board.
Right, it looks pretty insane right now. Swampoo's will deal with the weapon.
I mean, we were looking at this even Paladin list and we were like, it's pretty messy. Is it really going to work? Well, this is the perfect matchup for it.
We're going to call it good Paladin? Good even Paladin?
Definitely not.
She's got a series of good cards in it. You don't like calling things good, do you, Dan? You never call me good.
I never call you bad either, so it's a nice compromise. This does open up level up if Romania would like to use it.
I think they want to get rid of this secret first, though. And there'll be some wise sage nodding. Yes, there is.
Yeah, there's been some nice playing around the Repentance from Romania.
But that's the first damage they've done to face that has registered. So it's great and all that, but they've got so much more work to do. Quality Consecration, one of the timeless Hearthstone combos that clears basically anything.
Yeah, and usually you would feel you don't really need Equality plus Consecration against a odd Paladin, where typically the minions are pretty low health. But actually, Corridor Creepers are pretty annoying to deal with, and certainly a leveled up board can also be relatively difficult to deal with as well.
Yeah, another. Looking at this Spike Steed again, it will be able to come down turn 7, whatever, thanks to the reduced cost power. And turn 6, thanks to the coin.
Romania are probably just going to play into Consecration here as well. I mean, they can't really do much else. Level up's not going to be happening on just one minion, so you're just looking at Fireflies and hero power, maybe the Veteran.
Yeah, you save the level up until after the Vine Cleaver. That's tried and tested now. And like you say, just not a lot going on here of much. And the fact they haven't done any damage to mean anything is really bad news for Romania. It's just going to mean that Switzerland have time to organise this defence.
That's what's kind of nice about this even Paladin. That hero power you were talking about, it has just allowed them to kind of trade in with those little pesky minions early on to keep them very firmly in this game.
Yeah, it's basically defended these AoE spells, this Consecration, for instance.
I mean, without Consecration, without Avenging Wrath, then things could get ugly very quickly, but that's why you put them in the deck. That's why you have 2 ofs, so you can draw them.
Chillblade Champion. Not a card you see every day, but a little bit of lifesteal will come in handy right about now. Not exactly now, I don't think, but in the next few turns. One of the cards that, after you've begun to stabilise, just completes the job, I feel.
And I feel like Switzerland just have just so many options to win this game, just to survive. It's whether Romania have the ability to keep refilling the board to the point where Switzerland just run out of this removal.
And I don't think they're ever going to run out. It's more about whether they can get a burst turn. Using the Avenging Wrath, not the Consecration, even though it's not guaranteed. Firstly, it's very likely to kill at least 4 minions, and it does get all 5. And secondly, it just saves that mana for later, because control decks traditionally do have a slight mana problem later on. Swampoo's coin Spike Ridge Steed looks like a fairly decent next turn. Assuming that Vine Cleaver comes out here, and I don't see why it wouldn't, because Romania's only hope is to land this level up and get it to stick.
Well, and I mean, your opponent's at 19 health. It doesn't look too bad if you can whack him in the face a few times, and you have Leroy Jenkins available too. But Acidic Swampoo's is going to make short work of the Vine Cleaver. And maybe that is something RDU is thinking of, and the rest of the Romania boys.
I'm sure he's thought of it. It's just a case of what do you do? What do you do about it?
And if you're playing around it now, like, you're just giving your opponent more time to draw it if they don't have it anyway.
Yeah, yeah. Don't see how he avoids playing it, and if he does avoid playing it, it'll be interesting to see what line he takes. Because next turn is a nightmare. Not only is it the Consecration, but there's the Spike-Witch Steed starts to get in the way as well. You've got to have something there to challenge all that.
Act now.
Got to say, it's not looking fantastic for the Romanian contingent.
And that's a bit of a resigned play, I think, there. They just didn't want to do it, and then what's the conclusion? How do you not do it? And this, to me, looks like the beginning of the end with his Swampoos into the Spike-Witched. Doesn't mean your Equality Consecration gets a bit messy.
It does, but just stopping the burst from a potential Leroy Jenkins is absolutely incredible. And you don't even have to Spike Bridge now if you don't want to. Could just play Chillblade. But I think it's too good to pass up with the mana cost.
Job done.
And the resigned look on RDU's face,
Yeah.
I think, tells it all here.
And that was that incredible game 4 that has led to this position for Switzerland.
I'm just triple checking that there isn't any
owls that I've just not looked at.
But
yeah.
there is not anything available for Romania, so they have to try their best to chunk through 14 points of taunt health.
Yeah, before anything happens from the other side.
Which
Like,
is
they've
just
got 14 points to do, and Switzerland have a handful of things that help them gain health and kill other things.
which for any deck is difficult to do. But for a token-based deck, which is often just at its max 3/3s or 1/1s.
So with that in mind, they've got to decide, have they got 2 Vine Cleavers? Let me have a look. Yeah, they've got 2 Vine Cleavers.
Reporting for duty.
Leveling up now seems like the best chance they're going to get, but could they wait for the other Vine Cleaver as their only out? Because this one probably doesn't get it done.
They've got level up and they have a blessing, which allows them to push a decent amount of damage and they can kill off this first taunt.
Okay. Great.
As the United Kingdom win 3-0 against Belarus, which puts the United Kingdom at 3-1 in the Swiss now. A much better year for the United Kingdom in terms of the global games.
I mean, it couldn't have been a much worse year.
It
So
was.
that was a good starting point for us.
Was a terrible first year for the UK.
Amazed that none of us picked them, really.
Commiserations to Belarus as they fall to 2-2. Now I heard that joke, Neil.
That's all right, then.
The United Kingdom are my team, all right?
True Silver here looks reasonable, obviously. Is there much else to Spellbreaker? It might just be True Silver, Spellbreaker, and give it a bump.
Could go True Silver, Chillblade if you wanted to.
You could indeed.
But you are right. Silencing... It's not going to happen on much else.
Be nice to keep the board nice and, or not nice and wide, but wider than your opponents, so your Tarim becomes in play.
Job done.
And now, basically, full board control has been established. The health total is a little low. They will be looking to get some life stolen as soon as possible, just to make sure they get over the finishing line.
Maybe it's just Baku here for Romania as well. It competes with the board. It's a big minion. And... Oh, there's a second Spike Ridge Steed, though. I was going to say, there is the ability to deal with it for Hypno. You can play Sun, keep a Tarim, for example. The equality, I don't know if is as valuable here. But really, Switzerland are just going to be looking at this hand saying, right, how do we lose at the moment? We have so much resources to deal with whatever they put on the board. We just need to keep back some of those more vital ones for emergencies.
Yes.
So let's say they suddenly get a full board of level up. How are we dealing with it? Right, let's keep back equality. Let's keep back consecration.
And meanwhile, let's use Tarim now, whilst A, they've got their biggest minion in play, and B, the one thing they can do is outboard us if something does go horrible. So let's just get the value out of the card we have. And basically, that should be the end. I'm sure Radu won't give it up immediately, but we can see that second Spike Ridge Steed is just going to put paid to any dreams of Romania getting to 3-1 this time around.
I mean, there's not much chitter-chatter between the Romanian lads there. We saw after game 1, when they won with Topsy Priest, it was all high five, smiles all round, and I'm sure at 2-1 they were feeling relatively confident.
But this consecration is just going to end the game basically on the spot. It's just going to deal with everything Romania have. They've gone all in here trying to stick a board on the absolute outside hope this consecration isn't there. But there'll be no surprise when they see it here. And it is horrible to lose when you're 2-1 up and you fancy your chances in game number 4.
Yeah, it would have been interesting to speak to them as well, and maybe they didn't fancy their chances.
Yeah, that's also a good point.
I mean, it's not exactly a huge favourable match either way. It can go, it can be a little bit 50-50 at times. Depends very much on tech cards. It depends very much on builds.
I'll let you speak to them.
Well, I'm not going to be speaking to them.
So, even though it'd be interesting to speak to them, we're not going to.
No, because if we speak to anyone, I imagine it would be Switzerland.
As it should be.
Well played.
As the emote is sent out, RDU rolls his eyes a little bit. Romania look a little bit defeated, but for Switzerland, well, they move into 3-1 in the Swiss, taking down a fantastic team as well. And right at the start of the series, you were saying, well, the Switzerland players, maybe that we're sleeping on them a little bit.
Yeah, they've got a decent win rate, nothing spectacular. I'm not trying to make out these are world beaters just yet, but they are players that have played a lot of Hearthstone at a decent win rate through the year. Again, Knights in particular picking up that top 8 in Italy. Let's have a recap of that fairly long series and see if you can remember right the way back to the start.
It was very back and forth, quite literally, and then it was game number 5 where finally Switzerland were able to break the pattern and get 2 wins in a row with a very confusing even Paladin at first glance, but the fact it was able to hit the exact matchup it probably wanted really worked out for them, and you have to
it's clearly their format.
You have to really say well done to them. You have to say well done for bringing something a little bit different.
Yeah,
it worked out nicely.
Yeah, the Swiss format working out well.
The Swiss format. That was another one of my facts actually, but I'll save it for another week. Is that how many things that we call Swiss are actually Swiss? Like a Swiss Army knife, for example, is actually made from Switzerland, like originally.
So you've got a whole load of these?
I do have a lot of them, and I'll save them because we have future weeks. But we do have an interview with one of the Switzerland players now, I believe, and we'll see how they were feeling about that matchup. Hypno, right, that was a nice win for you with your even Paladin. It was an interesting decision to bring that to the tournament. Is this a group build? Did you build it all together, or is it one of your home brews?
Can you hear me first?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, perfect. So hi everybody.
Yeah.
And I've seen on HS Replay that the even Paladin was actually pretty good for what I estimated was going to be the field for HGGs. So I tested it a bit on ladder, and I actually went like top 50 by tweaking a little bit the list, and then I ended up with the list I played today, or we played today. And so it was more my own choice. They weren't too confident about it, but when they saw my rank with it, they said, okay, we trust you.
And that's a good thing you guys must be doing this year, is trusting each other. You've all played quite a lot of tour stop Hearthstone between you in the qualifiers and such like. How is the team coming together with regard to communication, trust? Is everybody putting in their weight?
Yeah, we have. So you mean the HGG team?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we have a lot of different personalities among the teams. So as a captain, I've tried to let the ones who don't like talking much speak up a little bit more, and maybe calm down those who speak a little bit too much. So that's very interesting actually. I like it a lot. The aspect of the communication for HGG, it's really hard, and you don't have extra time to choose your play. So compared to a normal game, so yeah, that's very interesting, and I think we've done well, except for this first match against Spain, where we weren't really ready to communicate. We didn't practice it really early.
It's going well for you now.
Yeah. So now we're on a roll, and it works better, the communication right now.
And how much pressure does that put you on as the captain then? You're saying, like, you're having to try and maneuver who's communicating, who's not. Were you a little bit worried going into that game 5, not only it being your deck on the line, but also you trying to get the win?
Yeah, exactly. For that reason, being my choice of deck for this one, I was scared even before the match started. I was scared that we would get to 2-2 and that I had to play the Paladin for in a matchup that I think I'm a bit unfavored, especially since I decided to cut the Pyro and I have no Knife Juggler, things like that in the list. So yeah, I was definitely very scared as a captain and with my own list.
Well, it worked out well for you in the end. You were able to get the victory. So massive congratulations to you. You're at 3-1 now in the Swiss. Best of luck with the rest of your matches in the tournament.
And thanks to everybody from Switzerland who I'm sure was in the chat supporting us. Goodbye, everybody.
See you later. Thank you so much. And it is nice. Yeah, nice to thank the fans at the same time.
Yeah, there's plenty of fans in most of the chats. I haven't seen this one because I'm not reading it while I'm casting for obvious reasons.
That would be a bad idea.
It would be a bad idea. Let's have a look how that one went down one more time.
Yeah, a thrilling series in the end, and I mean, it's great to hear how it was pretty much his homebrew of a deck. He'd been playing on ladder, succeeded, got high legend with it.
He checked out some replays, thought this will do.
His team trusted him as well, and they must have been quaking in their boots right at the end, just hoping he was able to get a victory in it. It was intriguing to hear that he felt he's unfavored against the odd Paladin. I mean, when you look,
it didn't look difficult when we
saw it. When you look at the hand he had, you can understand why. You look at it and think, all right, well, how does he lose? But if you don't draw those early clears, then the odd Paladin could just absolutely run through you.
But there was quite a lot of it in there, and again, when you establish that Spike-Ridge Steed fairly early on, turn 6, then everything does look a lot better.
But a very back-and-forth series. No team able to win 2 in a row until the rights at the end. We did have the mirror in Priests, but it wasn't a mirror. It's a Topsy Priest versus Mechathune Priest, which Topsy Priest won in the end.
This was just turn after turn of just trying not to die for one more turn, but never really looked like Romania had a way to win that one or a plan to win it. It's just like, let's not die and see if we can get Elise to do something magical.
Yeah, a lot of these games were painful to be on the losing side because it was just delaying the inevitable, it felt.
Talking of not having a plan, though, they certainly had a plan in this game where they just held on to things forever to build that board you just saw.
But this was the most intriguing game of the series, in my opinion, finding a nifty little way of Lethal of switching back the decks, having Dragon Fury, and being able to push face with the 1 extra point of fatigue to win. A game where Romania would have felt relatively comfortable, I feel, if Alexstrasza as a 9/9 wasn't able to come off the board. Maybe they would have had a Naturalize available for it if Skulking Geist hadn't have been played.
Maybe they would have, Kelesev hadn't been played, be able to deal with it better.
Exactly, but then we got into game 5, which was Odd Paladin versus Even Paladin. Hypno's own home-brewed Even Paladin was able to get over the line and win them the series, which, as captain, I'm sure he was absolutely delighted with, and I'm sure it was a breath of fresh air for him. I'm sure he was like saying to the team, like, whew, I'm glad I was able to get
It's always nice while you've got your home deck, or whatever deck it is, whether it's homebrew, whether it's your own personal favourite deck that you don't stop talking about, like you. I never have that going on, or whatever, and then you get to prove it to the world. It's like, I told you this deck was good. Never in doubt.
And I'm sure now you at home will probably want to try it, so check out that deck list if you can and see how you fare on ladder. Anyway, next up we have Kazakhstan versus the United States. This is a do-or-die matchup in the Global Games. Loser is eliminated from the competition. We'll see you then.